You know, Tyler and I were just talking about people rummaging through. I guess they're not rummaging. They're looking at houses, and if they're all in the same house together, I think it'd be funny to watch because it'd be so awkward. But, you know, a lot of people don't have the choice to go buy a house, or a lot of people don't have the choice to, you know, mingle around or even compete with other people in a way that you might think that a lot of people compete for housing. There is competition, though, and some of the competition is really for the low-income housing. And Tara Connor and Aidan Poile join us today from Plymouth Housing Group, which has since grown to be one of the largest providers of very low-income housing in downtown Seattle. And with over 1,000 residents and 17 retail tenants and 12 buildings, Plymouth Housing Group today is actually a big operating budget. You guys help a lot of people and, you know, really put yourself in a position where you are helping the city in a lot of ways. It kind of goes probably unnoticed to the amount of impact you have. Well, first of all, welcome. How are you guys?
Good.
Very good.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming in. So let's talk a little bit about the Plymouth Housing Group, what you guys do, and tell us about it.
So there's two components, obvious components to what we do, and one of them is we do provide permanent supportive housing. So it's permanent, not an emergency shelter, permanent housing to adults who are coming in from homelessness. The other piece is we provide and it's you're right, it's subsidized housing. It's very affordable. It's very safe. And the other piece is we provide on-site supportive services to the folks who are moving in to help them deal with some of the issues that led them to being homeless in the first place. But I also think there's another component that we actually enhance the communities we're moving into. We fix up, old buildings, we preserve historic buildings, and we really become a part of the community and make it look better. But obviously the most important piece to us is our mission, which is about helping people move out of homelessness and into good housing.
So when you start talking about, so you guys have 1,000 residents, which is a lot of people, and coming from, I would imagine, 1,000 different backgrounds. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are probably not a lot of too similar stories. Maybe there are. I mean, are most
There's
stories
a lot
pretty
of different
different?
Stories, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and so, when you think about that, especially when you talk about supportive housing, which I want to talk about what that is, but I would imagine the administrative piece of trying to manage 1,000 people with 1,000 stories who have come from, probably not the best backgrounds is a very difficult task.
Yeah, I guess there's two pieces of that. One is the service part, and one is the real estate part of that, which I'll let Aidan speak to. But we have 30 years behind us of trying things out, and we're an agency that doesn't sit still very long. When we see something that needs improvement, we have a lot of creative thinkers, and we want to fix it, and to a fault. Sometimes, we're just constantly making things better, but
it's called tweaking syndrome.
Yeah.
You just got to tweak everything until it works, right?
But you probably could talk about administering to 1,000.
Well, I mean, okay, well, let's talk about what services are you so you administer essentially housing,
right,
and shelter, but then you have other services that you actually provide, which is, I guess, in sync with the roof over the head.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So we have folks coming in, and generally people have been on the streets quite a long time. 15, 20 years is not unusual. Wow. And there's a lot of physical problems that people have when they move in because they haven't been taking care of themselves. They haven't had a place to take care of themselves. People have mental health problems, and people have addictions and dependencies to drugs and alcohol. People have legal issues. They've lost track of their families or their children. So it's a wide variety of services we offer. We think of ourselves as service brokers. We do counseling. We support people in more healthy lifestyles, but we also broker services for them. We'll find a dentist who'll see someone with very little money. We'll find a wonderful clinic who'll serve people who have low income and just help people get back on their feet again.
Do you see people transition? Do people come and move up and out?
There are people who do, and there are people who do not. There are people who are there a couple of years, get their feet back on the ground, and want to live in a different sort of neighborhood, a different building. But we do have people who are severely damaged by years of ill health and not being able to take care of themselves. Trauma. We have a lot of people suffering from trauma, traumatic brain injuries, and they're probably not going to be moving on. This is their home. This is their family.
So so how do you reach these people? I mean, how do people find you?
Right. We do have a waiting list. People can walk into our office in downtown Seattle and apply for housing. Obviously, there's also folks who are having so many difficulties either with mobility or their mental health, who can't get around to doing that whole application piece, and they can have a service agency or case manager apply for them to help them move in, to start that process of application.
So you're essentially taking people off the streets, giving them housing. How many people are homeless in King County in Seattle? I mean, in the area.
We know that there's at least 8,000 people who are without any shelter over their head. So when you talk about
8,000 and you guys house 1,000, I mean, you guys are in contact with 10% of the homeless or would-be homeless community. That's a pretty big percent for one group.
We know what to do, right? We know what to do around the single adult homeless community, and that's what we're going to keep doing until we're finished. 1,000. We need a lot more than that. But I also am a person. I don't think it's undoable. This isn't an insurmountable problem.
So is it only single adults then? Not family housing? I mean, I guess there's a lot of different. I guess there's a lot of different places that people go in different niches. You know, you always hear about like the battered women and children housing, or you hear about there are just, I guess, halfway houses type things, which sounds a little similar to this, maybe a little different. But it appears that, I mean, you guys have a really significant amount of that population.
Yeah. Yep.
Have you thought about that? I mean, that's cool.
We're one of many providers. There's a number of other homeless providers, and folks specialize in different pieces. And I think the single adults is what we do, what we feel we do well, and sort of what we specialize in. So there are other groups that are out there that are working with families, provide transitional housing, which is not the permanent housing, and we work with them. And I think there's a continuum there, but single adults is really our piece.
What are some of the biggest challenges you face in trying to reach out and serve single homeless adults?
In terms of finding them, or in terms of
in terms of whatever, what are some of the biggest challenges you face?
I think the type of housing that we build is probably different than a typical market rate apartment. So we've made accommodations in what we build. A lot of our units are a lot smaller. We're looking at 280 square feet on our newest development. 300, 400 is about the biggest that we have. So we have much smaller, and we also use a lot of different finishes. So we spend a lot of money in terms of finishes and making sure that they're real durable and they're going to last. So it's a different product than market rate developers would have. So the sort of buildings we build work for us, but probably wouldn't work for other developers.
And so, I mean, is that a challenge in building these buildings or constructing these? Or, I mean, is there a challenge in managing 1,000 folks that maybe have never been in those type of homes before?
Yeah, I think that's part of it is building something that meets the needs of this population. You couldn't sort of just go out and buy, a market rate apartment and think you can just, move in all these folks and that's going to work. So we sort of what are some of the differences? I mean, you say custom build. What are some of the differences other than square footage? I think in terms of staffing, and maybe Tara can speak to that, what our typical staffing is like for these types of buildings.
And the staffing also has to do with getting those folks in. As you said, we provide a lot of on-site support after they move in. But even before they move in, one of the problems, there's no problem getting people who want to move in, but is getting people to trust that we really aren't joking. People have had so many years of things that have fallen down for them and promises that weren't kept by someone. Yes, you can stay here, and no, you can't. That one of the problems is getting people to trust that we really aren't joking. Here's a key, you really can move in. And so we do a lot of outreach to folks while they're still homeless and develop a relationship with them and kind of guide them through moving in. And then after they move in, it isn't all roses, for people who have been surviving on the streets for years. It's quiet. They find it quiet. They might find that quiet unnerving when they close their door. They also had survival behaviors that they exhibited on the streets to stay safe that aren't so great when you're living in community and housing. And that's not everybody, but some people might have to be really loud and aggressive to survive on the streets. And so we're really teaching people in an ongoing way, what does good tenancy mean? What does it mean to be a good tenant? And we're not saying you're a bad person for doing A or B. We're saying this is what a good tenant does, and how can we help you to develop that behavior?
So if people want to get involved, what are the different ways you guys, how can people get involved with this? Because homelessness is something that does resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah. We hope that people listening to this would look on our website, which is www.plymouthhousing.org.
They're all www.
I know.
I think you can just say plymouthhousing.org.
Do you say
http://
And so hard to say all three of those. Now I feel foolish, but okay.
No. You're not foolish. That's what I do. I state the obvious.
Plymouthhousing.org. And go to Key Contacts. We have a wonderful volunteer program that has all kinds of opportunities. If you want to volunteer one-on-one with a person, if you just want to get in there and clean a building and never talk to anyone, if you love cooking and want to provide a meal to a group of people once a month. But one group we'd really like to talk about is a up-and-coming group of young professionals who are meeting on a regular basis, sometimes in the afternoon over happy hour, who are interested in social justice, who are interested in change, who are interested in homelessness and housing, and who get together and talk about how we're going to carry this movement on into the future once us old folks retire. And something they're doing, Friday night they're hosting a table at the South Lake Union.
It's supposed to be a big event down there.
It's supposed to be great. They say 10,000 people. So, and the proceeds from that actually of buying food and drink will go to Plymouth Housing Group. Oh, cool. We have some other good stuff.
And you guys have September 28th, the Key to Hope Luncheon, which sounds like another thing that people can get at Plymouth Housing.
Right. Tickets still available.
.org. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us. We do have to go to break.
Thanks.
But stick around. We're going to bring Tyler's coming back. Heather's going to join us. We're going to talk a little bit more about the community involvement and what's going on out there in the real estate world. We'll be right back after this break. You're listening to Brashenomics.